welcome to Trucking Safety with Sam Watts. Today's episode is going to be a pretty special one. In fact, it's going to be two episodes because I'm breaking it into two parts. Because, like I said at the beginning, I try not to keep these things going too long. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just I tend to like my podcasts shorter. But I had a fantastic conversation, and I didn't want to cut anything out because everything is solid gold, okay? You're going to want to listen to this one. But, again, it went over an hour long because we had such a good talk. So, and you'll see that because you're gonna listen or watch or whatever you do to this podcast. Thank you very much. But so I'm breaking it into two parts. I had the privilege, the honor, the opportunity to go up and visit the ladies of the Trailer Trash Podcast. And I know what you're saying, Sam, you are such a lucky dude, and you are correct. Absolutely fantastic time. They bought barbecue for lunch, and then afterwards we had a great conversation about trucking and safety and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure that once you're done with my podcast, watching it, listening, whatever, you go over and listen to their stuff, okay? Now, here's the thing I'm going to tell you about the Trailer Trash Podcast. It is one of the most original and one of the most uncensored podcasts that you will listen to about trucking. So, all that to say, make sure that the kids are not around when you listen to it. But it is extremely entertaining, and it was such a treat to go up there and sit with them and talk because it was just genuinely a very fun conversation, and I think that comes through in the audio and the video as well. So it was a great time. Now, I tend to keep my podcast a little more clean, and the ladies of the Trailer Trash Podcast did a phenomenal job keeping it clean. However, a couple things slipped in there, and so I'm just giving you a heads up that you might hear a couple curse words in this podcast. So, and I didn't really have time or the energy to edit them out. So I'm just giving you a warning right now. You will hear a couple curse words, but if you've been in the trucking industry for more than 30 seconds, that is not incredibly unusual. So anyways, but the audio from their latest podcast and my current podcast, the one you're watching or listening to, it's the same audio. So if you heard mine, you've heard theirs. If you heard theirs, you've heard mine. It's what we like to call a crossover episode, which was fantastic. So again, it was such I'm kind of at a loss for words. It was such a great time going up and talking to them. And a huge thank you as well to the sponsor of our show, Ewing Safety and Industrial. Make sure that you are checking them out at ewingsafety.com, okay? You are not going to regret it. And if you regret it, then there's something wrong with you. Yes, that's what I said. So anyways, here is part one of my conversation with the ladies of the Trailer Trash Podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Trailer Trash Podcast. This is your host, Diesel Bandita.
Chicken Lips.
Breasts McGee. I'm keeping it a little more PG today.
Oh.
We have a special guest on today. Do you want to introduce
special.
yourself by your CB handle?
Well, yeah. Is it we went with light bulb, right?
The light bulb.
The light bulb.
I think the
Yes.
light bulb
The
is a
light
little
bulb.
more like in your face. Yeah.
Yes, because my last name is Watts.
Yes.
Yep.
Which a lot of people
not
don't
'cause
know
you're
that
bald.
it's.
Because you're bald at all.
Yeah, no. Anyways, yeah, no. It's a lot of people don't know that Watts is associated with electricity. You'd be. I know.
Yeah.
I can see the shock in your.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'll make jokes like, hey, I was gonna name my kid Mega, and like we don't quite get that. I'm like, you guys are not my friends anymore.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So yeah.
Yeah, so Sam's won like 3 Grammys,
Yeah.
Emmy nominated. He's a
Oscar
pretty important
twice.
guy.
Yeah, I'm going for the EGOT.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, Tonys.
Coming for you.
Yeah.
No, Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I like long walks on the beach.
Yes.
And
nice.
smooth jazz.
Nope.
No. Oh, never
Can't
mind.
get with you on that one. No.
I can't either. In fact, I really don't like the beach. I was just there a month ago. It's really noisy. I don't know if you've ever been to a beach.
Which beach were you at?
I was down by the Atlantic Ocean in Florida.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The Atlantic Ocean is like the entire East Coast, but Florida's a little more
It's noisy. Not a fan.
What beach?
The one with sand. I don't.
Specific.
Yes, I
the
know that one
sandy one,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I want to say New Smyrna.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That beach. Speaking of, I've got a buddy down there who teaches surfing. He said that's like a shark bite capital beach down there.
Really?
Actually, I
Cool,
think that's-
man.
Yeah, no, super
Great.
cool. When he asked me if I wanted to learn to surf, I said not a chance in hell. Absolutely not.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like Florida right now is just like shark territory. It's
Shark
all
nation.
everybody's getting attacked by sharks.
Yeah, they're hungry for sure.
Yeah.
So you made it out alive.
I made it out alive, barely.
Overstimulated.
Yeah, I just didn't go in the water. Yeah, but no, I also have a podcast, the Trucking Safety Podcast with Sam Watts. That's me. And yeah, it's I was up in the area. I'm actually kind of in my old stomping grounds, which is kind of fun to see.
Yep.
You guys have taken good care of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I can't begin to describe how excited I am to be on the Trailer Trash Podcast.
We're excited to have
Yeah,
you here.
yeah.
Thank
Excited
you.
to have you.
Thank you very
Fun.
much.
So real quick, where can people listen to your podcast?
Online.
Online.
No, that's you guys. You guys Trailer Trash.
You can pitch us.
Thanks
too.
for the plug.
This is, well, like we talked, this is a crossover episode.
It is,
So
yes.
Yep.
it's the Trailer Trash Trucking Safety Podcast.
Ooh,
Yeah, I like that.
It's got a
I
good
like it.
it's got a good ring.
Right.
But you can find it at Spotify, Apple, all the
Yeah.
good stuff, YouTube, because
YouTube.
I do video on mine as well.
Yes.
So you can see my beautiful face on YouTube,
It is-
or you could turn the picture off and just listen to the audio.
No, I like that. I said it the other day when
Yeah.
we were catching up on yours. Is like when you and that's why I was a little disappointed when you said like maybe I won't look at the camera as much because I said I could listen to this guy talk for hours. Like you're very.
It's like you're on FaceTime.
Yeah.
It
almost.
is.
Like
Yeah.
it's
It's very
informative
personal.
and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like you're in person.
Well, I might have to rethink my entire strategy now. Thank you very much. Okay.
Start from scratch.
Yeah, we'll just start over. All right. No, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you do the podcast,
Yep.
and then what else do you do?
So I do safety.
Yes.
That's my deal in trucking. I started I've been in trucking my whole life, just whole life. My dad was a trucker. In fact, that was the reason he got off the road was because my mom's like, you're not leaving me home with 2 kids. So here I am, and there we are. And so born and raised in the industry, I did everything you possibly could in the industry except drive a truck. I've never had my CDL, never been over the road. I know how to drive a truck. I used to wash them, so I'd drive them around the yard.
Yep.
Got in massive trouble for getting into 5th gear in like 500 feet frame, So, but I've never driven over the road. But everything else I've done, like I said, safety. I've done operations. I've done
Yep.
IT. I've done accounting. That was a disaster.
Accounting.
But I did
it
it.
just sounds
Yeah.
awful.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
that does.
terrible. Like you will never, and don't get me wrong, I'm not making fun of truck drivers. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but you will never get their settlement correct.
No.
Like I'm just
No.
saying,
Thank
you'll
you.
never do it.
No, never. Even though, okay, so I'm sorry, I gotta stop you here because this is something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So when I was working as a fleet manager dispatcher, that was something that we went over with the guys is what their settlements were if they had questions on them. And I'd get a question, why is my settlement so small this month? And I'd be like, do you know what your deductions are each month? Well, no. Why don't you know what your deductions are each month?
Yep.
They never know. So I'm sorry. A lot of them never know what they are. Not
There you
all
go,
of them.
yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them. And you can never get it right. There's always going to be a complaint about something, which when you work as hard as some drivers do, I can see if there's like a little, like a spoof on there or something that they think is, bring it to somebody's attention. But no, I will die on that hill. Oof. I'm there
Don't
with
die
you.
on it, but yes, that is definitely a hill that a lot have climbed and a lot have failed on. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they never seem to understand. Again, not all of them, not generalizing, but a lot of them never seem to understand what taxes are. And so you're
yes,
saying, hey,
those are
I made
important.
$800, but there's only $650 in there. Well, you have to talk to Uncle Sam. I
Yeah.
can't.
Right.
No, we
I
can't change
do
that for you. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
If you could figure out how to get paid without paying taxes, you let me know.
For sure.
That's
Taxation is theft.
See, I knew I liked you. Yeah. what else do we want to get into here?
I just slapped my dashboard about it yesterday when me and my younger sister were talking about it. I was like, it's another hill I'm going to climb and die on, man.
How many hills are you going to die on?
A
in
lot
this
of them.
episode?
There's going to be just pieces of my body, like on multiple different hills. No. Okay, back up. I'm sorry, I got ahead of you there. So how is that then? Because I've never driven truck either, and I manage drivers. As a safety person,
Yeah.
trying to manage
I know
people
where you're going with
who
this, yep.
know that you haven't driven a truck over the road
Yep.
before.
I've never given birth either, but I know it's awful. Like you don't have to participate in something
Yeah.
to actually know how to do it. And
Right. Yep.
and usually there are some guys that'll kind of hold out and they'll test me. Like there's been some guys that have asked me questions just to see if I'm saying the right, because lingo is everything in the trucking industry.
Right.
And
Yep.
if you can spot an imposter a mile away because they're not going to use the right word, or you say I want you to deadhead somewhere, and if you don't know what deadhead is, like boom, you're automatically out.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they just throw you out of the industry.
Yep.
So it's things like that they'll kind of test me on. So once I prove to them that okay, I might not have been behind the wheel, but I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
They usually will kind of warm up to that. So there's usually a little bit there. But again, I've been in the industry since the late 90s, actively working in it. Not to date myself or anything like that, but since the late 90s.
Yeah.
And I've been around the block a time or two. So I know what they go through. Like I know the struggles. Like, I just had this conversation the other day with a guy talking about PCing to a safe haven. Like I know that you're going to have to sometimes drive up to 50 miles because truck parking is just non-existent now.
Yes, that
So-
was another topic we want to
Yeah.
have.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead
No,
of
you're
anything,
good.
but
No, you're hitting them all.
these are all the things that I know. I don't have to
Yep.
be out there to know this. Like I've talked to drivers every day. Like I know what you're experiencing out there.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they usually are pretty cool with that. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is, as a safety guy, is coming from an operations background, like a lot of the safety people seem to kind of lean legally, which I get because there's
Yeah.
legalese involved in it. But coming from an operations background, like I know how drivers operate. And so I know what they're trying to do, even if it's illegal or against regulations,
Yeah.
but I can kind of steer them back to the right way by saying,
Right.
hey, if you keep going this way, like this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Like you got away with it today, but
Yeah.
you're not going to in the long
Right.
term. And some guys unfortunately have found that out firsthand,
Right.
and then they kind of come back and go, I see what you're saying now.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think it helps when you give them the perspective of I'm trying to help you.
Yep.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm just
Right.
trying to help you navigate this.
And that's a lot of safety guys. They just seem to have checklists and like, oh, Billy screwed up today. Check.
Yep.
Oh, Bobby screwed up. Check. And
Yeah.
I try to aim more towards, hey, you screwed this thing up. And you might think it's not a big deal, but I'm going to tell you why it's a big deal,
Right.
so we can kind of correct it. And a lot of guys really have been responsive to that and saying, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, that was a big thing for you. I did it very briefly, but with the Lytics cameras and teaching for their improvements, trying to teach somebody who's been driving for 25 years and you're a 20-something-year-old
Yeah.
girl sitting behind a desk. I mean,
Yeah.
how seriously do they
I would.
take you?
I'll be quite frank with you. I call them and I'm like, hey, my job is not to tell you how to drive your truck. My job is to teach you how to work with this equipment. So let's figure it out. By the way, you fucked this one up. Fix it next time. And
Yeah.
that is
Yep.
as far as my coaching went because it was hard. I was like young 20s, and there was
Yeah.
men and women who had been driving for 20 plus years. So I didn't know how to navigate that. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, they got more miles backing up than you ever will in
Yeah,
forward.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and there's definitely some of those guys that have that chip on their shoulder, and
Yeah.
sometimes they just don't work with you. But I found that if you can show them that you're trying to help them,
Right.
like and you're not just ringing up all their wrongs, they usually
Yeah.
come around.
Right.
Yep.
Especially now that I'm bald and I have gray in my beard, like now they know I'm seasoned and grizzled and
Yeah.
old as.
You look trustworthy too.
Well, thank
yeah.
you. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
it's the ears.
So what does your position right now look like within your company? Like what do you do, like safety meetings with everybody in the company and then have them pass that on to drivers, or you get involved with drivers more, or?
Yeah. So what I do, I've kind of developed my own little system,
Okay.
and I'm gonna share it to the world here because I'm assuming the world listens to this podcast.
Oh, yes, everyone.
Good. Thank you. That's what you told me when you said, "Come on up."
That's how we got him here.
That's exactly it. The president of the United States listens to this, and I was like, "Who is it?" And you're like, "I don't know."
I don't know. That's somebody.
Anyway, that's a different rabbit hole. So I've kind of developed my own little system where it's so hard to get drivers to come in, do like safety meetings and stuff like that. So if you've listened to my podcast or not, I have a broadcasting background. So I'm very comfortable around cameras and microphones. And so I was like, how can I get my message out to drivers, to my drivers, or any driver really, without having to get them off the road, take half a day, lose all that revenue, lose the money on the truck. So I started actually making weekly videos for safety, and we'll watch the dash cams on that, and we'll go over
Okay.
different things that they need to watch out for. Like we had an issue where some of our hours of service violations were starting to tick up a little bit. So I sent something out saying, guys, you got to watch this here, and kind of challenge them. And so I reach out to them every week. I make the video, throw it on YouTube, text them the link. And we have right now. I'm watching over 200 drivers, and we usually average about 150 views of those videos a week. So
Nice.
it's like a lot of them are watching,
Yeah,
which is
that's
nice.
cool.
And a lot of them will come and talk to me and say, "Hey, I saw that video," you know. And with the dash cam stuff, I just want them to be aware of what's out there. Like I don't show like the big crash, you know, that you see on the TikToks and
Yeah.
the Instagrams of the world, but it's dash cam from our trucks
Right.
that like this is what our guys are seeing and or doing or stuff like that. And it's like you got cars cutting you off, or you got our guys doing something wrong, and
Yep.
it's like, guys, you got to pay attention to this. This
Right.
is what we're trying to avoid all this. So
Right.
that seems to be really good. And then, like I said, if they do need correcting, I kind of bring them into my office and we sit down and say, we got to correct some stuff here. Like I'm not coming down on you. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm
Right.
not saying you're ugly. I'm just saying you got to fix some of this,
Yeah.
or
Right.
you can't drive for us anymore. Like that's just all what it is.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the videos every week. That's a little better than just like a weekly Qualcomm message
Yes.
that they're getting, and you're actually connecting with them. Because I
Yep.
mean, speaking personally, I get a message every week. I'm gonna get rid of it, or a different video. I'm gonna watch that.
Right.
You build that relationship with them, then they're gonna listen to you better.
Yeah, and you know I put them out on Mondays for the guys, and if I don't, because there's times where I get busy with something else, and if I don't get it on Monday, I'll usually get 10, 15 texts from different drivers saying, "Where's the video?" So it's like,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
watching
It's
it. You know,
making an impact.
it's making something. Yeah,
That is neat. I like
Yeah.
that approach to it because they say too that people like these days respond better and can learn from video versus stagnant text. So that's cool.
yeah. Now I tell them not to watch a video as they're driving.
Yes, that's important.
That's one of the prerequisites, but
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know?
We'd get a call about that one. Your driver was watching a video
Uh-huh,
at
I'm sure we
4
would.
a.m. When was it? 6
With his
a.m.
dome light on.
with his dome light on.
Yes.
I think I heard that episode. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, that was
Yep.
interesting.
We had that too.
Yeah. Oh,
Really?
really?
He wasn't watching the video, but he was keeping up with a female driver.
Yes.
And
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and you know,
Yes,
so
of course.
yeah,
Of course.
yeah. So she called, and we said, hey, you know, that's not good. We took everything down. We had HR
Yeah.
involved,
Yeah.
and you know, it's kind of a he said she said type thing. Because of
Right.
course he's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, you know, again, that's HR. It's a little bit above my pay grade. You got to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
And then the next week we got another call from a different lady. We're like, okay,
All right.
I'm starting to think that there's a
There's a
problem.
trend
Oh.
here.
Yeah. Like we hadn't
Okay.
even finished the investigation on the first one, and we got another call, and we said,
Eee.
"Hey, bud, how about you get out of our truck?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about,
Yeah.
That's good that
know.
you nipped it in the butt, though.
Yeah.
We did.
That's good.
We
For
did.
sure.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you had mentioned earlier about parking.
Mm-hmm.
We see a bunch of that because we run monthly parking out of our lot up there.
Yeah.
But we did an episode where we kind of dove into that and just everything behind the hours, hours of service, personal conveyance, how long it typically takes a driver to find a parking spot with the shortage. I mean, what do you like from a safety aspect? What is your stance there?
That's a tough one because, like, it all depends on where you're at too. Like, if
Yeah,
you're in the
that's
south,
true.
like that fills up really quickly.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, like, there's parts that say truck parking that really now the guys want to park in because
Yeah.
it's sketchy.
Right.
So it all kind of depends, but you know, I tell my guys, find the closest safe place that you feel safe in. Now, we have had guys try to like push that a little bit, like, oh, I couldn't find a spot in 150 miles. It just so happened to be where my next pickup was. You know, it's like, okay, guys, that
Yeah.
that doesn't quite work. But yeah, it's definitely a problem. Like if you don't find a spot by like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it seems like you're going to be running into trouble.
Yeah.
And like I said, the PC, if you run out of hours at a shipper receiver, you can personal convey to a safe spot. I don't know where that safe spot is. Like, so
Right.
that's where you kind of have to lean on the drivers and say, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what's available. I'm going to leave this up to you. I always kind of tell the guys, because I get a report every day on their personal conveyance use, because that's obviously the easiest thing that you can, you know, break.
Yeah. Right.
It's the, you know, a lot of guys like, I know how PC works, and then you see them do it once, and like, you know nothing about PC.
Yeah.
I thought PC couldn't be used after their clock had run out.
So that's a part where a lot of the drivers were getting that mixed up too,
Okay.
because you can't drive like the 11 hours. You got 11 hours to drive.
Right.
Yep.
You can't drive the 11 hours and go, okay, now I need to find a safe spot to park.
Right.
That you can't do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's illegal, or frowned upon. That's a violation. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you are at a shipper or receiver and they take long loading you and you run out of your clock there,
Gotcha.
you can personal
Oh, I
convey
see.
to a closest safe haven if they don't let you park on site.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that's where we can use it. Now, again, we had a ton of drivers that would run the 11 and then PC it for another 50,
Right.
60 miles and
Okay.
shut her down. Well, that's not
so
cool.
you're saying they run out of that 14-hour clock
Yep.
and then they can PC.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if they drove 11 hours or not.
Right.
During that. Okay.
Yeah, you can, but you have to go to the safest or the closest place.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't, and now, again, but this is where you have to go with your drivers and say, was the closest place 60 miles away?
Right.
Like, because, yeah, there's a truck stop there, but there's no parking available,
Right.
you know? And even then, cripe, some of those truck stops anymore are not safe. I got so much dash cam footage of us getting hit at truck stops because you got these guys trying to back in and,
Oh,
and they
And then
bump
they
you and,
skitter
and then
off.
they take
Yep.
right off, you know? It's
Yep.
like, hey,
Yep.
you know your name's on the side of that and we all have dash cams now.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to find
So,
you.
I want to plug Truck Parking Club. Have you heard of Truck Parking
I
Club?
have. I've
You
met the boys
Okay.
there, yep.
You have? Yes. Okay. So we actually do that up at our lot here.
Okay.
So that's a
Yep.
good resource for a driver. I think that's honestly the best resource that I've found for drivers for parking because we've worked with quite a few different parking
Yeah.
hubs or whatever,
Sure.
and they have been the
Chef's
best
kiss.
to
Really?
work with.
Yes.
Yes,
Wow.
they
No,
are
I-
phenomenal.
I've never worked with them, but I
Yes.
do know them, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's been awesome. So
Just because I feel like up in Minnesota, because our lots were like packed. What, 2 years ago?
when it was hard for you to find trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it was good for everybody.
it
yeah.
was really good. And then we saw everything with the market and the decline, and we saw a lot of the owner ops not able to sustain their business, so they left parking. So we had vacancy for quite a while. Truck Parking Club has brought in a ton of people.
Yeah.
for us.
Nice.
It's been
But,
awesome.
No, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even for drivers, like on their standpoint, they provide a map on either it's the app or on their like mobile site
Yeah.
that gives you across the United States little pinpoints of where each location is. So you can kind of map out your next
Right.
destination or where your next load is going to be and see how far that
Yeah.
next parking spot is or
Yeah.
see what the reviews are on it. And it's just really convenient and they can choose daily, weekly, monthly, however long they want to do it. And it's
Yeah.
so easy to book
Yep.
on there.
So
They make it really nice.
Let me ask you this: these guys, because you're getting a lot of these PC violations, is
Sure.
what you're getting.
Yep.
So is this just a lack of planning on their end, or is it mostly these shippers and receivers who are sucking up their time?
So, yeah, it's kind of everything. I don't know. This might be kind of mean, but
Go
we'll
say
say
it now.
I think
Say it now.
I think shippers and receivers are some of the worst things in trucking right now. Like they don't understand hours of service. They
Yeah,
don't understand how to load a truck. They don't understand how to unload a truck without breaking half of it. We have had so much. In fact, okay, quick personal story here. Renovating a bathroom in my house.
Okay.
Putting a shower in. This started, what is it? What are we, July now? Yeah. So this started like February. We put a shower in our bathroom. The first one came cracked. Like the plumber got it, opened it up, it was cracked.
Yep.
The tub part was cracked. Okay. Send it back. Takes like 6 weeks to hear back on the new one. Okay, the new one's gonna be shipped out another 6 weeks. Okay, cool. So we get it, they bring it, the plumber goes to pick it up. It's got forklift holes right through the tub. Like, okay, so we still don't have a finished bathroom and we're in July and this started like 6 months ago because
Yeah.
no one can know how to unload
Right.
a freaking truck without breaking it.
It's
So-
either that or they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
it's,
well-
let's get them in and get them out.
Either
Let's-
way, it's still
If that's the problem, then yeah, then upper management needs to get involved
Yeah,
and say, hey
exactly.
guys,
Yeah.
maybe you should care a little bit more.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, so shippers and receivers, some of them are extremely notorious for just you get loaded when you get loaded, or you'll get it's just it's some of that, and then some of it is lack of planning. Like that's one thing I try to go with my drivers is, okay, if you have 300 miles to go and you have 8, it's like math class all over again. If you're
Yeah.
driving 50 miles an hour and all this stuff, so
Yep.
like there is a little bit of that involved because some guys come from places where they plan your trip for you. Like we've gotten software now where they can route you and plan everything and tell you where to stop for gas and
really?
tell you when to use the restroom and all that. I mean, maybe not that last part, but they can plan everything out
Pretty well.
I mean, it's not like drivers will listen to that. There are ditches along the way. So
Dakota's got an invention for that.
Plug my invention. We'll talk about that later.
I don't know if I want to talk about that later.
No, I don't know if you do.
Anyways, moving on. But yeah, so like some of these guys have never had a trip plan before, or they ran regional or like, glorified regional where you're going 300 miles a day. Well,
Right.
if you're doing that, you really don't have to plan too much. But if you're going to run like Chicago to Houston, and you got 2.5 days to make it, or 2 days, whatever. Like, you're gonna have to plan that thing out, and some guys just don't know how to do it.
Right.
So they kind of get themselves in trouble, or they'll run hard for a week. Like, hey, I'm making a lot of money doing all this. Well, then you're up against your 70. Your
Right.
cycle.
Yep.
Now you're shut down for 3 days because
Yep.
you got to reset, or you have to work off recaps, or
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah. You made it there, but you can't move the block
Exa-
to your receiver.
exactly.
So now
Yeah.
you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I mean, I could never go over the road ever in my life and do what they do, but we need them for sure.
No, we absolutely need them.
Like, I know, like, we kind of dogged a little bit, like, a settlement is never going to be right for a driver. These guys don't plan correctly. They don't do this. But I, like, still kudos to all
yeah.
the drivers out there.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not making fun of drivers.
Oh, no, not
There
at
are
all.
definitely very, very good ones out there. Unfortunately, and the good ones will agree with me on this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ones that were able to pass the test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not calling anybody out, but
Yeah.
like, they always say there's a truck driver shortage. There's a good truck driver shortage.
Yeah.
There's a lack of guys who understand how it all works.
Yep.
So
There is actually one thing that the safety gal where I used to work used to do was, okay, you got your CDL, that's great, you've applied for a job, and now you're going to go through everything. Because she'd go out with these drivers, or they had like a couple safety people, and they'd run through the trucks with them, go on a test drive with them and everything. And she'd grab this checklist that she had and hand it to the driver and say, okay, what's the next one on there? What's the next one on there? And I'm like, why do you do that? She goes, to make sure they can read.
oh sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So just because you got your CDL, I
Yeah.
mean, doesn't mean you got everything that you need here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We kind of have a litmus test. We have a recruiter where I'm at, and he'll actually ask them to send him a picture of their license to see if they know how to use their phone and text a picture in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
like, these guys need to send paperwork in now,
Right.
like, right away, and so there's been guys that haven't been able to do it. We said, I don't know if you can work here, man, because
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
you have to send bills in. Like, you have to take pictures of that.
Well, and that's so hard because I mean, I had some technologically challenged drivers as well, and it's not guys who are inexperienced. It's guys who have been doing it for
Right.
40 years who aren't used to the way of
Yeah. It's
doing
change.
things like
Yeah.
through the phones and the computers and whatnot. So it's hard. Like, if we're telling, or your company or whatever, you can't work here because you can't send a picture in, well, might be a really good driver.
Right.
Like, that sucks for them,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are times where we've kind of like what you said, like, okay, this guy's got 35 years of experience. Like, maybe let's try him
Yeah.
out or something. Because we do have
Yeah.
really good old drivers that figure it out.
Yep.
They know exactly how to do it. Now, don't ask them to deviate from the plan. They just know how to.
Right.
It's like, don't ask them to send a
Yeah.
voicemail to you, but
Yeah.
they can send that picture and they're good to go.
Yep.
But there's just some guy, and you can always kind of tell too, like, if the willingness isn't there.
Right.
Like, I can't
They
do
wanna
it.
be taught.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Yep.
can just kind of tell. Like, it's that sixth sense. Some
Yeah.
people see dead people. Some people know when guys aren't trying hard in technology.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
And
true.
you see dead people.
I do both. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have actually 7 senses.
Did you see my body laying up on that hill out
I
there
did.
earlier?
We need to talk about that later. Yeah.
Later, off
That
air.
was horrifying.
Yeah. Okay, so I know one thing we had brought up right before we sat down to eat that delicious barbecue
Yeah, that barbecue was off the chain.
was frickin' A, what was the fucking name of it again?
The Supreme Court, the Chevron.
The
Chevron.
Talk
Yeah.
to me about, give me
So,
that, because Dakota
hold
tried
on.
to brief me.
No, hold on. I'm gonna see if I got it right, and I need you to tell me if my basic understanding.
Oh, gosh.
Is correct.
Okay.
Okay. So, from my understanding, so let's say Elogs. Elogs is. You can't challenge Elogs because Elogs was a decision or a rule passed down from the Supreme Court to the FMCSA to make the rule. But like the speed limited trucks, that was a decision not handed down by the Supreme Court or by Congress, excuse me. That was made by the FMCSA, so that could be challenged.
Yes.
So,
Did
kind
you
of.
catch the part where I come from the operations piece and not the legal piece?
Yeah.
You've got to have some kind of
mean,
understanding of it, though. It's
I-
safety related,
It is safety related in some part. I haven't been able to look into it as much as I should have.
Okay.
I'll tell you that right now.
Okay.
The basics, what I know is exactly kind of what you said. Like, if Congress brought it down, we still have to kind of talk about it. If like the EPA or the DOT
Yep.
or anything kind of like that just poof out of thin air,
Yep.
then we can challenge
Then
it.
that's a challenge.
Okay.
Yep.
But I don't know what that looks like as far as how do you challenge it
Right.
and what kind of legal fees you're going to have. Because if you're going to challenge the federal government or their
Right.
entities, you better have some deep pockets.
Yeah.
That's all I know. So I don't know who's going to be the first one to make a run at that, but I know trucking companies are.
Oh, yeah.
Are they? Yeah.
I mean,
And
there's hype. There's hype behind it, but I don't think it's something that's going to be effective immediately. It's not. You're not going to see, your truck not be governed.
When it came down, we
immediately.
told all of our drivers throw their e-log things out the window, back to paper logs.
No,
Is that wrong? Whoops.
I think that's.
Oh, that's a joke.
that was a joke. Shoo!
I was like, sir,
She was so scared
I don't
for
think
you.
anybody should know about it.
Cut the clip right there.
Shut it down,
my
burn it
goodness.
I
all.
don't think this guy knows anything about safety.
man.
It's a fraud. No, I'm just kidding.
Christ.
Just kidding. But yeah, again, I haven't looked too much into it other than kind of what you
Yeah.
just said. I know it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
I've got trucks that I'm responsible for that I've got to figure out and keep them compliant on some stuff. So I haven't been able to do extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Or extra credit. Then do it in school. I'm not going to do it in job. So I don't know what that means, but if like a JB Hunt or like some of those big guys want to start poking that bear, it could get really interesting.
I know.
Right.
I'm very perplexed to see what happens with that. So.
Okay, so let me ask you this because we were talking about the e-logs and you made a joke.
Sorry. Next time I'll say this is a joke, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
It'll-
Thank
still
you.
just-
Thank you.
still
It
go
probably will because I'll disassociate for a second and be like, were you working in the industry when did it switch from paper logs over to
Oh gosh.
ELD?
2013.
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now, you guys will know this, well, a lot of people will, Cook out of Minneapolis. I was working for them. And they were kind of like one of the first ones the first big carrier to go to e-logs. And that would have been 2009, 10-ish, somewhere in there. So I don't know exactly when it fully became that way, but 2009 was kind of like the first part of it. And now there's still guys fighting it, and we're in
Right.
2024, So,
Yeah.
and guys are buying like the old trucks or the old engines so that they can, get around. If you have pre-1999,
Right.
you don't need it. And
Okay.
but the other thing is too is if you're working like for the company I'm with right now, we still make you put it in, like even if you have an
Yeah.
older truck, because in all honesty, e-logs is not that big of a deal if you're running your logs correctly. It's the guys that were doing logs wrong are the ones that had the biggest problem with it.
Right.
So, and you're telling us that as dispatchers and customer service people, like we have the tracking technology in it now. Like you're not going to get rid of that. Like
Right.
no shipper, no customer will ever let you go back to, I don't know where the truck is.
Right.
Yeah.
Me and my old man were just talking earlier today about how like he used to be a dispatcher back in the 80s and they would say, hey, we got a load going to Oakland, California. Call me when you're there. And then you don't hear from him in a week. That's the old days. Like those are, when I first got into trucking, that's kind of when they started doing, like we had tracking at my first trucking job, inside job, because I was the grunt guy for years, outside warehousing and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But my first inside job, like we had tracking, but it updated every 5 minutes. So it wasn't real. Like right now,
Right.
I can pull up my phone and see where every truck I'm watching is.
Yep.
How fast they're going, if they have their seatbelt on, if they have the check engine light on. Like that's not going away.
The seatbelt thing. I've never heard of that
No, I
before.
haven't either.
Oh no?
Really?
Huh? Interesting.
We'll
Wow.
drop it.
How about that, huh?
Yeah. How about that? Maybe if you were in safety, you would
Tell
know
me-
this stuff.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I was
Inform
just here
us.
for the barbecue. Yeah. No, I can see if they have their seatbelt on.
Is that something you guys put in the trucks?
No.
That must
No,
be the
it's with the program we're using, the ELD program. I'm not going to
Really?
say who it is because
Well,
they're
no,
not
yeah, that's
sponsoring us. So
fine.
Right.
you
Yeah.
guys gave a
Fuck
great
'em.
plug for.
Yeah, we gave a huge plug for Truck Parking Club.
Yeah, they should sponsor you.
Yeah, they should. Yeah.
Anyways,
We would've got
They're
pinned
doing enough
here.
for us right now. We appreciate
I
that.
was going to look it up, but I have to log in, and I don't want to do that.
When truck sound just pulling off with no seatbelt, I would've got pinged. Oops. It's fine.
Oh, Ellie,
No
hey,
biggie.
there's a safety guy here right now.
It's fine.
Anything you
You're
care
not
to share
better.
with the class? Yes?
No, I'm good.
Miss Diesel Bandita.
Yeah, tell the light bulb.
I kind of like
Well,
that. That's
okay. I
good.
do
too.
Yeah.
You know, I came up here yesterday because the main guy that's up here is out right now. So I'm just covering whatever. But 2 trucks came in. The guys literally just threw them in neutral or just pulled the air brake on, or whatever it is, pulled the parking brake on them, set them off, and then left. Like, everything was running. Lights were on. It was still in drive.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, something needs to happen here. And I was just by myself. And then one of the shop guys came up here, and I'm like, okay, teach me how to drive this. Teach me how to, like, do everything with it. So he taught
Just
me
take
how
the
to,
air brake off and you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's making loud noises. What's going on here? But then now I'm just like, today I just went up and moved trucks because then they taught me how to do it. But
Ellie learned how to drive yesterday, and now she's rearranging the
That is
lot.
that is impressive.
She's
That's
an
good for
impressive
you.
young lady.
Yeah.
it was really fun.
Do you
It was
have
a
your CDL?
thrill.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh. Good. What to look for?
I do.
Yes, she has her CDL.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are saying it in a way that I'm not sure if you do have your CDL.
Well,
She is also Grammy nominated, Emmy nominated.
2 Oscars.
about that.
Wow.
She was featured on an Eminem song in his latest album.
Really? Oh, which one?
Houdini.
You could say anything and I'd go with it. 'Cause
You were quick on your
I have
toes
no
there,
clue.
girl.
That was good. I couldn't even think of it.
no, if it wasn't My Name Is, I don't know any other Eminem song. All right, so we're going to end it there for today. Make sure that you tune back in to the next episode where we will finish up our conversation with the ladies of the Trailer Trash podcast. If you like this, make sure you go like and subscribe the video. Make sure you leave a review on wherever you get your podcast. But thank you very much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and come on back. We're not going to wait a whole week to release episode 2, so come on back very soon, and you'll get to see part 2 of our conversation together. See you guys next time.